Is the One Audio Monitor 60 a viable solution for producers? Let's find out. Greetings, mate. Stuart Charles here, HomeStudioBasics.com, helping you make sound decisions leading to a beautiful audio experience that will make you fall in love with music, not gear, all over again. So, the One Audio Monitor 60, what's it all about? In the box, you're getting the headphones, a user's manual, a carrying bag, and 3 auxiliary cables. First is a long 3.5 to 3.5 millimeter cable. The second is a 3.5 millimeter to 1/4 inch with small coil. And the third is a short 3.5 to 3.5 millimeter with mic functionality and a play pause button. So right off the bat, these are incredibly bulky headphones. If your goal is to look like E.T. extraterrestrial while mixing down a track into the wee hours of the morning, these are the headphones for you. They're dual-sided, so you get a 1/4 inch jack on one side and a 3.5 millimeter on the other. This means that you can actually daisy chain headphones together if you want, or you can plug into any source without the need for an adapter. For instance, if I had an amp with a 1/4 inch jack on the front, I would just use the 3.5 millimeter on the ear cup from the Monitor 60. And if I had a DAC or source with a 3.5 millimeter jack, such as a Dragonfly Red, Hitas S9 Pro, BTR5, etc., I would just use the 1/4 inch slot on the headphones and the 3.5 millimeter jack on the other end. So definitely some added value there, and something that I don't see in a lot of other products. So another added benefit of the coil is that it's a short coil. Now, if you'll recall on Sony's MDR7506, the coil was super long and ended up tangling in on itself after a year or two. You're not getting that here, so that's also nice. As far as the headphones themselves, they're made of mostly plastic. There is metal headband adjustments, harkening back to the M40X, M50X, and Status Audio CB1. So what's interesting about the Monitor 60 is it actually looks like a cross between the 50X and the CB1. So if those two had a baby, the Monitor 60 is what you'd get. So the cups rotate and fold in a myriad of different ways. In fact, you can pretty much manipulate it in most any way you want. So another added benefit there, if you're DJing, you can actually turn the right or left cup out and put it behind your ear, which some DJs like to do. So even despite it moving around considerably, I don't really feel too worried about these breaking down. It's a robust type of plastic. It doesn't feel like it's just going to crack or anything like that. As far as the ear pads, they're round, deep, and dummy thick.
Dummy thick.
And when you turn them towards you, there's right and left indicators in big block letters on the inside of either cup, which I thought was really nice. So you're not really guessing too much. You can quickly and easily figure out which side is which and then get to mixing or whatever. This headphone, though it looks like an open back headphone, it's actually not. So the grills on the outside are really just a design aesthetic for show, for looks. Looks pretty nice, but just keep in mind that these are closed back headphones. In addition to the R&L indicators on the inside of the ear cups, you've also got them on the outside near the hinge where the cups rotate, and small block letters on those little circular pieces. So you're never going to have an issue figuring out which side is which. For show, comfort, exemplary. These clamp perfectly. They don't dig into the top of my head. They don't dig into the sides of my head. And the dummy thick pads are perfect for extended listening sessions. Do I have them on right? They're also pretty lightweight, and they just feel like a pillow, honestly. These are definitely top notch in terms of comfort. And there ain't much more to say. Booyah! So the sound, definitely a step in the right direction, One Audio. Let's give it up for them. If you may recall, I reviewed both the A70 and the A71. Both of those headphones were abysmal. The muddy mid-bass is mostly gone on these, so that's definitely a plus. Number two, they are light years more neutral than both the A70 and the A71. Now, are they completely neutral? We'll get into that in a bit, so sit tight. There's still a mid-bass rise here, but it doesn't feel bloated, cheap, artificial, insert word salad here. But because of this mid-bass rise, you still got some recession in the lower mids, which can be a bit problematic. Before we get into what I like, my biggest gripe with these is that they're missing a lushness, they're missing that fullness. They sometimes sound papery, artificial, flat. Not flat as a neutral, but flat like a deflated balloon. Compressed, essy. There's a sense of tautness missing, so with headphones like an Ananda, something with a really tight response, HD6XX, it's just missing that. So things come across a little bit too loose and flabby, like your grandmother's arm fat. And the timbre is a bit off, but you know, all these things that I mentioned are very subtle, but noticeable
if you have listened to a lot of headphones like I have, so.
Now, like the CB1, in fact, these two headphones are incredibly similar. Both the CB1 and Monitor 60's best assets are most certainly their soundstage. At this price point, the openness, the detail retrieval is very good. The width and panning of instruments is very good. You can pretty much pinpoint and place where things are. You'll definitely notice things in tracks and songs that you didn't before, so breathy noises, subtle instruments, ambience, backing soundscapes, fingers moving across the fretboard, faint talking in the background left to right. And if you're a producer or beat maker, I make beats. You'll definitely be able to find flaws in a mix rather easily, which is one of the main reasons why I recommended the CB1 so much, is for that very reason. There aren't many headphones below $100 that are as revealing as a CB1 or a Monitor 60. Now, the 7506 is certainly in the mix there, but that headphone doesn't have quite the width that these two do. Now, as good as that is, you know, the upper mids, while present and accounted for, they can be a bit forward, a little bit shouty. And the treble, while it's not overly harsh in my opinion, you're still gonna get some slightly papery, artificial character to it. It's a little bit essy, but nothing too crazy or over the top. So yeah, to sum up the sound, I'd say its main flaw is probably the papery, artificial, essy character I mentioned, and its main strength is its soundstage, openness, and detail at this price point. Now, is the resolution on par with something, you know, in the $500, $600 range and above? No, but for 80 bucks, this is pretty damn good. So to round this out, what I liked, its value. It's very affordable at $80. You get the 3 cables, the pouch, and no need for an adapter. Number 2, it's flexible and built pretty well. Some might complain of a tad plasticky of a stature, but what can you really expect for the price? It's good enough for me. I feel like I could probably throw these and they'd be okay. So yeah, I mean, don't worry if you drop these. They're not gonna break or anything like that. I think they're built very, very well for the price. Thirdly, nerdly, they're very comfortable. So this is probably their best attribute. And lastly, like I mentioned, the soundstage and openness. What I didn't like, the somewhat loose, flabby, papery, artificial character, and lacking tautness. In other words, they do sometimes sound like headphones below $100, and you will notice this in some capacity. So what's my final verdict? I do think at the end of the day that the Monitor 60 is a better value than the CB1, because the CB1 is a great headphone, but the package is pretty bare bones. With the Monitor 60, you're getting the 3 cables, the pouch, and you don't need an adapter. So I do think that adds a bit of value. Sound-wise, they are very similar. The other reason I tend to want to recommend these is because they're incredibly revealing for their price, and so they'll always stick out in my mind, similar to the CB1. Well, that about wraps this one up. Do what you gotta do below. Don't forget to ask me about my grandchildren. Don't ever give up. Aight?